Today, Gbola and I will be talking about cryptocurrencies' implications on other currencies. Gbola Adewumi, who has been following the crypto market since 2017, has seen and experienced the crypto markets crash and the bull run. I am looking forward to hearing more about Gbola's journey into the crypto markets. I'm Bimbola, an energy analyst, a sales manager, and a data scientist, and I love spending time with friends and family when I'm not podcasting. Well, before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge the support of PaySop Invest, a global financial advisory and wealth management firm based in Germany, France, and Nigeria. If you're looking to create generational wealth and understand how to manage your finances, do contact the PaySop Invest team on paysopinvest.com and their Instagram page, PaySop Invest. They offer services to individuals and corporate bodies alike. Well, I'd like to welcome you listeners to Empowered by BlueSitron, a podcast where we discuss journeys, lifestyle, culture, and more. Well, Gbola, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Awesome. So,
yeah.
The last time we talked about, crypto markets, cryptocurrency, cryptography, basically the technology. But today, good thing about today is we're getting to actually do this on a video. So we get to share our reactions with our listeners and our viewers. Tell us, what are the implications of, crypto markets? I'll say more of cryptocurrency on traditional financing. What are the implications?
Okay, so I think, to really enjoy the journey of the conversation, okay? Like with every house, you have to go back to the foundation, okay? You need to understand, get a good foundation and understand, how you can build a really nice house and then later jazz it up, put all the cute things in the decor. So the best way I would say is if we take a step back, okay, and say, okay, why do we even have these things in the first place? What started all this issue of cryptocurrencies? Okay, because later there were so many things that we realized that cryptocurrencies are trying to solve. But if you don't know what the problems are, you don't know the value of those solutions. Okay, so I think, well, what I have in mind is let's take a trip down memory lane first of all. Okay, so let's go back to the basics. Okay. And I think this way it will help all the listeners who later join and really don't know much. You understand? They can go right down to the basics. So we'll talk about cryptocurrencies, but let's talk about, first of all, what's currencies? Okay, so let's go back. And more interestingly, money versus currency. Okay, so this is something that is one of the things that cryptocurrencies are trying to solve, the difference between money and currency. Okay, so in simple form, what's currencies? Currencies are a form of exchange. We use it, for goods and services. It's a unit of account because you can count it. You can stack up your, one pounds, $1 and co. They have, units on them. They're portable. You can carry them in your pocket. Well, nowadays we all carry cards, but
yeah,
it used to be paper. It's durable.
Yeah.
You can divide it. 10 pounds, you can break it down into one pound. Okay, just the same way you can break one Bitcoin down into little bits and co. So you see the similarities as we go. Why they call Bitcoin and other cryptos currencies, and why they are felt to be better than the old currencies. Okay. So another thing which is important is what we call fungibility. Right. Fungibility is a term used to say, okay, we can replicate it. So I can have $1 bill. You can have $1 bill. I have $1 bill. It's exactly the same. You have £1 note. I have £1 note. You can replicate it. It's the same thing. We can print several of it. Okay, and if you hold it, some, and I hold some, they have the same value. Okay, that's what we generally refer to as fungibility. That's really important because when we start to talk about NFTs, non-fungibles, we'll understand the difference. Okay.
Yeah, cool. I was thinking about that. That's why
exactly.
I picked up my pen to say, okay, this is interesting.
Okay, so this is why it's good to go back to the basics first. So when we build on the more complex stuff, when we're explaining it, it's it's so much fun. We know what we're talking about. Everybody understands us. Okay. So now, what's largely the difference between then currency and money? Okay. So money is all of that we just mentioned, which a currency does. Okay. But also it is a store of value. Because basically, what is money? Money is a conversion of, it's like a store of your energy or your output as a person. You go to work, you spend 8-9 hours, okay, of your energy and time, and you're paid back something which is supposed to be the equivalent value of the energy you exercised. Okay, but we receive that currently as currency because we're paid for it. Okay, the difference is the value of currencies are going down, but the ways to put in the same energy, the same number of hours. Okay, so money, ideally, because we've already used that energy, we should have the same value when we receive it that doesn't go down in value.
Okay.
And that is what money is meant to be instead of currency. You'll understand as we go along. It's a fascinating world. Now, I would recommend to everybody watching and everybody who has an interest in the future of, life and, financial institutions and also cryptocurrencies to go and watch a gentleman called Mike Malone, The History of Money. He has various episodes on it and co. So quite a bit of these basics, are taken from there because I've done it intentionally because people can go back and refer to that and listen to, longer videos and, things like that. So that's basically, that. Now, governments use money, okay, and the supply of money, okay, to control various things in the environment, okay? So the interesting thing is governments print money, okay? When they print the money, how do they get the money to us? They get it to us through banks. This introduces now the banking institutions, okay, into the mix and the flow between the governments and the people. You have the financial institutions. And this is how, when we have money, where do we put our money? We take it to the bank. Okay. When the government raises interest rates, those interest rates, okay, come to the banks. The banks look at the interest rate and say, okay, if we're going to loan you money, okay, we have to pay interest rate to the government. So we're going to add our own interest in it because we have to make money, and then they loan us the money. So this is the flow. Okay. This is in a simplistic manner. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. So now let's get on to some interesting things. Now, way back, a gentleman called Addison Wigan, who worked for, I believe it was a newspaper called The Daily Reckoning, was given an assignment to go and review all currencies, fiat currencies, and what happened to them. And he discovered by the time he'd gone through all of the currencies that started with the letter A, and it went to all the currencies that started with letter B, he'd gone through 600, and all of them had gone to zero.
Interesting.
Exactly. He hadn't even gone to C, D, E, F, and co. Okay. So the question is, if we have currencies, okay, and the governments have issued them to us, okay, in every country, Nigeria has Naira, the UK has GBP, the US has USD. Why then does the value go down after we've done the work every day of these currencies? Okay, cool. So that brings us to an interesting point where if I work, I don't want the value of the money in my pocket to keep going down. Okay, so people felt that, okay, one of the best ways historically to hold value of wealth wouldn't be in a paper currency, but in gold, which is one of the reasons why gold, okay, is popular, especially when there's inflation or other things happening, okay? And that's because people feel that gold is a store of value. Absolutely. Okay? Because gold, over the long term, the value really goes down. It's on an upward trajectory. So it holds value. The reason why the price goes up is because we feel that it's more valuable to hold it. So we're outbidding each other to pay a higher price for it. The interesting thing is, what has happened is throughout the history of time, since the Egyptians, when gold was first introduced as an exchange, a medium of exchange, it actually started with gold, literally in days of Egypt. What's happened is every time there's been inflation or prices have gone crazy, or something crazy has happened in the global markets, investors go to gold and buy gold. So eventually the price of gold goes up until it matches the price of the rate of inflation. Okay, which is why a lot of institutions and people who were extremely wealthy back in the day used to have stockpiles of gold.
Gotcha.
Okay, that was the store of value. I've mentioned that because now we call Bitcoin the new gold, digital gold. And I'll explain that as we go further, why Bitcoin is referred to as digital gold, because it's felt to be an improvement on gold as a store of value. Okay, but at least first we understand, part of the original thinkings. Okay?
Behind it, yes, absolutely.
Behind it, exactly. Before we, fly to the moon with some of the more, wild and interesting things that, that we'll talk about. So the question is, why did people feel that they needed to have this gold, this store of value? Okay, and this is largely because of certain things that happen. Like I said, it's been found that every currency that has not been backed by something, e.g. gold, okay, has eventually gone
devalues. Yeah,
devalues.
right.
Okay, yes. Now, let's give an example of why some of this happens. Okay, if we understand why some of this happens, then we understand what cryptos are initially we're trying to solve, because now there are so many new things that crypto is doing, apart from just solving the issue of currencies, okay, and the world of cryptocurrencies, okay? So if we look at it this way, where every time, so we know that governments print, they use money to do certain things within, it's a medium of exchange, and governments largely control the usage of money, okay? But unfortunately, the usage of currencies, see, I still, mix them up, the terms, but, for the benefit of everybody, we kind of get the understanding. So each government will print their own currency, okay? And they use it to manage various economic things in their countries. But what happens is you have the value every year that a country generates, okay? Which sometimes we measure by our GDP, and other, metrics of value of as a nation, okay? And somewhere along the line, the amount of currency in circulation is supposed to reflect this value that is generated by a country, okay? But a lot of times what happens is when there's a crisis in the world, okay, for example, when there was the credit crunch, when there's COVID, governments all of a sudden need money like overnight to fix
Basically,
things.
they need to print more money.
Exactly.
Didn't that happen last year in the US?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but the question is, they're printing money at a phenomenal rate, far beyond the value that is generated by the country.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're saying, so now we have that, okay, all of a sudden, the government, okay, is spending more than the country is creating as a value.
Yeah.
So we have what's referred to as deficit spending.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And that's basically where the government is spending more than it's creating. Okay. So in order to do this, what does the government do? They just print. Okay. But so the question is, if the government just prints, let's say the government prints twice the amount, okay, of what they had before, or 3 times, okay, the value to you in your pocket is still the same. So all of a sudden, all this money is there, okay, and what happens is all the goods and services, the prices basically expand in cost to fit the ratio of the inflation that was created, the spending. Which is why you see that property previously, okay, might have been worth 100,000, but just because of inflation, it's now worth 200,000. But the house is still the same. It's still the same number of bedrooms. Okay,
Yeah.
the loaf of bread hasn't increased in size. It's still the same size. The tomato isn't 4 times the size, but it's 4 times as expensive over years. Okay, so this is as a result of the excess printing. Okay, so now one of the things that's happened over the years is when this happens, okay, so example, it was found out that in QE, when QE started, okay, so much money was printed that the cost of food in poorer countries, especially those that earned less than like the value of like I think $2 a day,
or maybe
cost, or less,
or
okay,
less, yeah.
or less, especially in underdeveloped countries, okay, the cost of food went up so high, okay, that it went over the tipping point, and we had the Arab Spring rising and the overthrow of governments. Okay, so I'm mentioning this because it now brings in underdeveloped nations, the challenges that underdeveloped nations have when we have issues with currencies. And what's been found out historically is that when the cost of, and during the time of QE1, I think just after QE1, the cost of food worldwide went up by 60%. And it's been found out historically that there's a tipping point. When the cost of food, the ratio of the cost of food that we spend, the money we spend, goes over 40% of what we earn, people tend to revolution because it's gone too far. Yeah. This happened at the time of the French Revolution.
Problem, yeah.
Problem, okay? And the effect is seen more with poorer nations, which is why we saw the uprising in poorer countries. Okay, good. So you're wondering how is all this important? Okay, remember, the currencies are controlled, and the print of the currencies are controlled by each individual country, so they can print as they want. Digital currencies, cryptocurrencies specifically, okay, that are not controlled by governments, okay, cannot be manipulated in this way. For example, Bitcoin, okay, this is one of the things that caused about the rise of, the popularity and the interest in Bitcoin, is that it has a fixed number of coins that could ever be produced, 21 million. After that, that's it. No government can say, oh, I have this issue, I'm just going to print money. There is no, exactly. Okay, so literally, it becomes a better version of money.
I see.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's one of the things that Bitcoin, the craze of Bitcoin, attempted to solve.
And these are basically how the traditional financing is been
operating. Yes, yes. Now, so let's now talk about Bitcoin and gold. So people historically felt that gold was a better store of value and therefore better as money than paper fiat. Okay, that's what was felt. But also one of the reasons was because originally paper currencies were backed by gold. Okay, previously on the for example, on the $20 bill, okay, there used to be something written that something like, oh, what was it now? The bearer, redeemable by the bearer, on tender, something like that, on tender. So basically, if you took a $20 bill and you took it to the bank, boom, and said, I'd like this value in gold, they would have to give you $20 value worth of gold.
Right.
Because it was backed by that value of gold. The UK coins were called shillings, silver shillings before, because it had silver in it to the value of that 1 shilling. Over time, what happened was when the UK wanted to pay for World War I and World War II, they extracted the silver from the coins, melted it, used it to pay for those wars. And therefore, what we now have is metallic alloys as coins. there is no silver.
Got you.
Okay. The US, so it no longer holds its intrinsic value as money, because what was valuable in it has been
It's no
removed.
longer there. Yeah.
Is no longer there. Okay. The government did that to pay for certain things. Okay. So now it's just a coin, which is worth less. The physical material is worth less than the value written on it. The same thing with paper. After the Bretton Woods Accord was sort of broken, America basically could not afford to back. So that's a whole nother thing. We could talk about that another time. You know, but I'm giving a crunch summary here.
Yeah.
You know, so that we understand the premise of what has brought on this whole new realm that we're going into. So basically, at a point in time, after World War I, World War II, you know, and everything, at a meeting in Bretton Woods, okay, the French realized, oh, you know, when all the nations came together, they realized, oh, we can no longer be supporting basically the US dollar, quote unquote. Okay. So they wanted a new monetary order. And what happened basically at a point in time is all the countries told the US, we'd like our gold. Okay. You know, and so the US could not provide all of that, which would back the amount of US dollars which was in every other country. So if every country took their US dollars and said, okay, we'll put it on the table, let's have the value of that, of gold back. The US couldn't back that. So therefore, there was a new arrangement made where every dollar wasn't backed by the equivalent of gold.
Wow.
Exactly. So this is really the history of money. Okay. So you can see how money that was backed by an equivalent value of something.
Yeah.
Okay. That value was removed. And I've just given an example of two different currencies, which are two leading currencies in the world.
Yeah.
So basically what we're holding now is paper.
Moments of truth.
Moments of truth. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump forward. Okay. So we're now in a point where, okay, we now know that the currencies don't have gold backing. Okay. So now let's move that aside for a minute and let's go to gold itself. Now, how is gold created? Gold is created, okay, when a star explodes. Basically, you have a supernova event, okay? And one of the byproducts of this is gold, okay? So to us, typically, historically, we only have, you know, when technology was, you know, at a particular level, okay? And, you know, we wouldn't think to the stars or to the universe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We assume that there's a quote unquote finite amount of gold. See the similarities in the school of thought, a finite amount of gold, like a finite amount of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay? But we thought that when we look at the earth, but that doesn't mean outside the earth, there isn't gold somewhere.
Possibly
Okay?
Jupiter.
Exactly. Because if another star explodes somewhere, and as you know, humanity goes beyond the earth, they may find likelihood, there could be a whole asteroid that's just solid gold.
Yeah.
You know, or just small bits everywhere. So gold, therefore, is not as finite, potentially, quote unquote, as Bitcoin.
I see. I see.
See, this is where we now say Bitcoin is the new gold. Secondly, if you had $10 million, your worth was $10 million, and you wanted it to be safe, I'm going to put it in gold. Where are you going to put the gold? In your house? How much space would you require? It's not portable, you know, as a medium of exchange. Yes, it's a medium of exchange, but it's not portable. Whereas you can hold $10 million worth of Bitcoin electronically and just walk out the door with it on your phone.
You see, and that electronic bit is what a lot of people have challenges with, isn't it? Because they believe people want to feel. Do you understand?
Yes.
They want to feel, they want to hold.
What their value, what they work for.
Exactly. So it's that electric part of thing. That's what a lot of people can really
get their heads around.
Yeah.
Good. So this is why we're making an effort to explain these basics, because if you can't get your head around that, it's going to be it's going to be harder to transition to get your head around some of the other use cases of blockchain technology, okay,
Mm-hmm.
other cryptos, NFTs, and the multiverse, which are now the applications of all these basic technologies. But we first have to understand why they came about. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So these are part of the reasons why Bitcoin is felt to be better than gold, and why Bitcoin is referred to sometimes as digital gold, because it has all the properties of gold, which people used to love, but it's better and easier to handle.
So people talk Bitcoin, which is exactly what we're using as an example, right? But it's not just Bitcoin, is it?
Exactly. So I've started with Bitcoin because it's the easiest one to start with.
Got you.
Some of the other currencies don't have a fixed supply.
Got you. Okay.
But they still use as currencies. So it's important to know what the other characteristics of those currencies are, which is what we sometimes hear as tokenomics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or are they used as governance tokens?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to control the operation, you know, or the voting that's done with regards to how that cryptocurrency, okay, or that technology should evolve.
Right.
So we're first starting from the grandpa currency or the granddaddy currency, Bitcoin. And as we go along, we'll evolve it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now let's jump forward further.
Right.
So now we understand the difference in currency and money.
Mm-hmm.
Why people prefer gold, but now why people prefer Bitcoin. Okay. But we've also talked about governments, banks, and the people. How, you know, in a very simple way, how this money kind of flows in between. So why does it affect the banks? Okay. Now we know, okay, governments normally control currency. Okay. With cryptocurrencies, okay, e.g., especially the decentralized cryptocurrencies, okay, like Bitcoin. So basically, when we say decentralized, it simply means there is no central authority, okay, which is governing or controlling is the better word, controlling the printing, the using, or the manipulation of that currency. That's what we refer to as decentralized. Whereas central is that there is one body, either a government or bank, you know, a group of banks, e.g. IMF, you know, or, you know, monetary institution that would control it. Okay, so that's you know, just so that the viewers are, you know, understand that. So here we are where we have a government prints, okay, they use the banks, okay, to transmit this money, you know, to the population and all of the things that happen. But now I can send money to you. So if you wanted to send money to me, well, faster because you're so rich, okay, you just want to give me money, okay? So you decide half your wealth, you want to transfer to Gbola because you're in a happy mood. So
it's a happy Saturday.
It's a happy Saturday. You can send me the rest half on Sunday. You'll be happy. So you would send it through your bank, okay? And depending on the amount of money, you would decide whether you're using faster payment, backs, or chaps, or, you know, some other, you know, wire transfer, whichever, you know, depending on the limits, okay? Because with faster payments, there's a limit. For example, for those of us in the UK, for backs, if you're using backs, you know, as a medium of transfer, you know, there's another limit. Or if you want to really send me big money, maybe you'd use chaps, you know, other things. So you would use one of these channels, which the banks, okay, and other financial institutions have set up, okay? And these are centralized institutions. Now we simply have peer-to-peer, what's called peer-to-peer. You are a peer, I'm a peer, okay? Basically we're at par and you transfer me that money, okay? It didn't go through a bank. A Visa didn't go through Visa. They didn't get a commission. The bank didn't make any money off it. Nobody made any money off it. It was a clean transfer of value from you to, I almost said from me to you, but no, it's from you to me. Okay, I'll take your money. I'll receive your money. So now So that has happened outside of the banking system. Okay. Traditionally, banks would make money. Now, when that money comes to you, it comes to your wallet. Okay. You are your own bank. Traditionally, banks used to make money off what's referred to as float. Okay. So the money that you have in the bank, okay, is there. And there is a belief that, okay, you're not going to come, all the customers who've kept the money in the bank are not going to come on the same day to all collect their money. Otherwise, the bank would crash. Okay. Now, there's another thing. Banks were typically allowed to borrow more money out than they actually held, which is very worrisome. Okay. So basically, it meant that money was just basically ones and zeros to an extent. Okay. So that's a topic for, another discussion. But just to give an example, so what happens is they would have that money, they would take that money, and then on the other side, they would loan the money out to other people. They would make more money loaning it out. For example, they'd give you 2%. Back then, it's less now, I think. They give you 2%, okay? Then they'll loan it out to somebody at 17%.
Well, of course, and take the margin.
Exactly. The margin goes to the bank. Yeah. Now, you can loan me money from peer to peer in a decentralized world without the banks. They don't make that money. That spread. So therefore, just from that example alone, their revenue structure is decreasing. Okay. This is apart from even where you have cases where
they won't like that.
They wouldn't like that. They wouldn't like that. So this is actually just one example of how the pressure which banks have been feeling. For example, checks. Previously, checks would take 3 days. Well, 3 to 6 days, depending on which country, where it was going to, and things like that. There was a specific duration of time. Normally, it'd be either 3+1 days, or something like that, depending on the rules within each individual country. Okay, so what happened is during the period where the checks are being verified, validated, that okay, it's a valid check. Oh, does the person in the other bank actually have that money when you pay it in? Okay, they actually have that money, and it won't take their account into overdraft or things like that. That money, the actual value of that money would sit in the bank still until all those things were verified, cleared, and then the money was sent. During that time, the bank could make money overnight and loan that money to another financial institution and make income. Okay, either to another financial institution or a big financial player. Okay, so they made money through various products, basic products, for example, like that. But now checks are going out. And basically, people hardly ever use checks now. People want instantaneous value. So things like that, again, where the money made from that has also been eroded. So banks have a challenge. Okay, so we talked about the challenge for banks. Okay, I personally feel that a large part of the banking infrastructure in various countries, especially the clearing infrastructure, okay, for financial transactions, has to change. Okay. And the only current solution for that, so now we're not even talking about the part of the banking system where the customer walks in. We're talking about the entire back-end infrastructure, okay? Because if you look at reduction, okay, in revenue, okay, because people want things faster, okay? You look at reduction in revenue because we now have peer-to-peer, okay, where I can just send you money, okay, without MoneyGram or anyone else, or Visa or the banks, okay, they're all making less revenue, okay? Yeah. Now, we're now in a world where the interest rates which banks can charge are reduced. So first of all, they have less currency, okay, to use to generate income for themselves, but now they have a lower interest rate to generate income on that volume of money.
They are not.
They're not. So this is the challenge a lot of financial institutions face, okay?
Right.
And I have, I've worked in various financial institutions, okay? So I understand this. And what happened is in one of the institutions where I was hired as a consultant, I designed part part of the, part of the banking system,
Yeah.
I designed, and the developers, they developed it, where what would happen is it would try to solve or reduce the challenge that the banks had, because what was happening is interest rates are so low, okay, but the banks still would charge the customer for transactions. So the question is, care not taken, the banks will be charging the customer for transactions, and the value of the charges will be higher than the interest that's paid to the customer on the same account. So basically, you'd be paying the bank to keep your money.
That is happening. I can tell you that for free.
Yes, but there's a difference between negative interest rates and charges. That's another separate kettle of fish.
Right.
These are just the charges on the account. So you've mentioned that because we do have negative interest rates in certain countries now. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, it started in Germany, I think, or, Germany and another, I think one of the other European countries. Okay. So that's a separate instance from the charges. So what happens is that the system that I designed was such that every morning it would look at all the transactions. Okay. And then there was a way the bank could say, oh, this person says that this payment is urgent, so it needs to go out today. If it's not urgent, it can go out today plus 1 day. If there's no rush, it can go today plus 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay. So it had a priority ranking. So what happened every day, it looks at all the transactions that are supposed to go out today. Okay. And every day, the system updates the date to know which should go today. It looks at all of them, sorts them from the smallest ones, okay, to the largest that can go within the cheapest function that the bank can use to make payments out, which was BACS.
I see.
Then once the limit for that bank, okay, has been completed, it goes to the next most expensive channel. Okay, and it looks at, oh, can this person afford it? Did they put the priority on it? Let's go. If they can't, their payment goes to the next day. And cool. But all of this basically was just so that it was easier for the bank to keep their costs down, so that they didn't have to pass so much of a cost to the end client. Hold on a second. My system isn't plugged in. Okay, just so we don't lose connection.
Yeah,
okay.
So you don't disappear from the screen.
Yeah, don't disappear. And we're saying that somebody's wants to take the money you've just transferred to me. So because of that, it shows that in line with the larger economic challenges that each country is facing, and the financial institutions, and the issues with facing around the world with low interest rates, banking infrastructure needs to change to accommodate this. Now, if largely the banking infrastructure, changed, and they were using blockchain technology, where the cost of transactions is a fraction of the cost it is now, that challenge would be less. So from a technological perspective, I personally think that banks and banking infrastructure needs a review in itself. Okay. Now we go.
They know this or no?
I believe that various persons are aware. They should know, even if they haven't thought it through. But for the fact that I needed to design, it was good to design that kind of thing for that financial institution, which was a small financial institution, shows that they're likely they're not going to be the only financial institution suffering that dilemma. It just happened to be the one that I worked in and happened to solve that challenge for, or help with that challenge. Okay, but this is an issue. Interest rate issues, low interest rates are an issue for everyone. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. So now that's the backdrop. Okay, of the banks, one of the bank's issues from a technological perspective and a macroeconomic perspective. Okay, so now let's come to a micro perspective now. Okay, now apart from less funds now going through banks, okay, and that will increase as we go into the future. What happens is outside of banking, okay, we now have what's called DeFi, decentralized finance, okay, where the banks are offering you 1% or 2%, and you can make anywhere between 20%, okay, and 82,000. I actually wrote this down this morning, 82,621%.
Take that again.
So,
say that again.
Okay. So what happens, again, banks are operating within the current regulatory structure, okay, and macroeconomic thesis, and happenings where interest rates are low, okay? So therefore, the banks will always will offer you less interest than the interest rate that they make. It's just logic. Otherwise, they would not be in business, okay?
Yeah.
So that's within the formal, recognized, centralized banking system. Now, if we go to the decentralized banking system, okay, depending on where you deposit your funds, you can make many multiples of that interest, okay? Some, depending on the cryptocurrency you have and the platform where you deposit it, okay? Now, this is what we refer to as decentralized banking, decentralized finance, DeFi, okay? And if you type, maybe after check, if you check, for example, so we have what we would say are more, would I say more tested? Yes, let's say more tested and possibly quote unquote safer platforms, okay? Where, for example, Celsius, okay, is to an extent a centralized institution, okay, but applying blockchain technologies and everything, and you have products, loan products, which you can get interest far higher than the banks, okay? So you have various, there's Aave, okay, there's Compound, okay? These have been around longer, okay? And then you have the more experimental ones, okay, such as Tomb, okay, which offers you several hundred percent. I think it's maybe 2,400 or something. I can't remember the last number percent, okay? But you have to stake them, okay? You have to stake them. So we can talk about those are things for discussion at a later date. Now, but you have even the more experimental ones, such as Wonderland, okay, which uses time crypto, and the rate, I checked just before we started. The interest rate was 82,621.2%, and it does compounded interest. So after every couple of hours, it calculates the interest. Okay, it compounds.
And this is
yes. In fact, your face has a very wonderful expression right now. Oh,
it does.
okay. Wow. But these are more experimental. Now, the whole understanding around these things are most of what we see in DeFi, decentralized finance, runs on blockchain technology, okay, and is governed by smart contracts, not human beings. The world of cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance, okay, is really governed around trustless transactions, where I don't need to know you, you don't need to know me, but it's governed by the law of code. As long as it meets the code requirements, okay, then the definition of that transaction, okay, as doable will take place. Therefore, some person can't be biased towards your company, or maybe they're not sure. It's just basically plain like black and white. There are the risks of where the greatest risk to DeFi and to investments and currencies, cryptocurrencies, in the world of the decentralized, okay, and blockchain are hacks or bugs within smart contracts, okay? But you also have institutions which ensure, you can take out insurance against that also. So you can both stake your money, okay, your funds on the blockchain, okay, on some of these platforms, and you can also take out insurance on the blockchain.
This is new, the insurance bit.
No.
Or have they been around for some time?
They've been around, for some time. It's just that because it's not as exciting as some of the other things going on.
It's not quite popular. So
it's not popular.
Yeah.
So some of them are under the radar, but you can. And some of the places where you stake your money, they may have inbuilt insurance.
Such as Binance?
No. The Binance is different. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at any of Binance's DeFi products,
Okay.
and they definitely, if they have, would not be paying on the scale of some of these other, platforms and things like that. Binance really isn't known for DeFi.
I see.
And Binance isn't actually, people feel Binance isn't really truly decentralized.
Got you.
Okay. And there are various reasons for that. Okay. So for example, when you transfer your funds, okay, from your wallet, which is decentralized, to Binance, it goes into their account. They hold it. It's not your keys. So for example, like on many exchanges, if Binance went down fully today, boom,
everything is gone. Yeah.
Yes. Let's assume, well, Binance has been good in the past when they were hacked, substantially. They took that on. Nobody lost money. They made sure that, people who had their coins did not lose their, their value, which was, good of them. But a lot of other exchanges have just gone. And so we've never really been sure whether they were actually hacked or it was an inside job.
Or they disappeared.
Exactly. Okay. So these are part of the reason why, regulations and other things like that are important. Okay. So we've talked about some of these other challenges and codes. So let's talk a little bit more about DeFi. So we understand the banks, we understand some of the challenges, we understand the governments, we understand some of the reasons why cryptocurrencies were birthed. So imagine in a world where you worked for your money, okay? You were paid, the money went to your wallet, your bank, which you carried around with you, okay?
Yeah.
It would mean that if a bank went down, like in the last credit crunch crisis, you would not lose your money.
Your money is gone.
Yes, your money is gone. But if your money was in your pocket,
it will be with you.
It will be with you. That's number one. Number two, in many countries that are paid in currencies that are low value compared to the dollar or to the pound, or more global currencies, you tend to find that devaluation of those other currencies happens faster, e.g. Venezuelan currency, e.g. the Naira, okay? So one of the challenges that governments have is every government wants everybody in their country to hold currencies in the notes or denominations of their country, okay? Now, you get paid, you can send all your money, okay, immediately you get paid and convert it to US dollar without having to go through all the challenges, okay? Well, not US dollar directly, but US, a pegged stable coin, such as US dollar, okay? Such as USDT, USDC, okay? Or even the Binance one, which are pegged to the dollar.
Yeah.
You can immediately buy a cryptocurrency, okay, put your money in an exchange, buy a cryptocurrency, convert to one of these stable coins, which in effect, because they're supposed to be pegged to the dollar, basically means that you are holding foreign currency of a nation that has a stronger economic dispensation than your own country. So where, for example, in your country, if the devaluation is going down faster, you don't want the value of your money to go down at that rate. So you keep it in USDT or USDC, or better, the safest thing is to keep it in a dollar peg stable coin, okay, which is regulated, okay, and not one which is potentially not regulated, okay. But there's a whole new school of thought about
that. Yeah.
Should you stay in Luna UST or should you stay in USDT? The move now is going towards Luna UST, okay, which isn't backed by dollars.
And is Luna UST called LUST?
No, no, funny enough, it's not. It's just called UST.
Okay.
It's an algorithmic stable coin.
Right.
Okay. So, but that's something for discussion later. So this empowers each individual now to have a domiciliary account, which is what it's often called in certain countries, without going through all the rigmarole you would go when you go to a bank to open a domiciliary foreign currency account.
Which can be a pain, but
a phenomenal pain.
Yeah.
With charges. You don't have charges. If you hold UST in your wallet, it's just in your wallet. No bank can charge you for it. So we now see so that's an example that now shows you some of the pressure now being put on not just the banks, but the governments.
Sure. I see.
And every government wants control of its currency. This is another reason why China, which is more a controlled state, okay, is very much against Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Okay, we can see the escalating impact of it on a country which has an authoritarian controlled nature more than a democratic one. Okay, which is why you see that FUD, or issues of control continue to come out of China. Okay, but I just said that to give a heightened example of the challenges that a country may face.
Yeah.
As a result. Okay, so let's touch on I wanted to, oh yes. So let's give an example, an interesting example that just happened. Okay, it's just been on the news. Okay, and which has been happening for the past 6 weeks that people know about. So we know that WhatsApp, okay, is literally everybody has WhatsApp.
Yeah.
WhatsApp basically disrupted the telecoms industry hugely.
Absolutely. You
Absolutely.
can call, you can text, free of charge, but of course it's not free. You just need to have internet. But
internet, yes, but basically it rides off the back of internet free. Okay.
Yeah.
So for a lot, we know that Facebook or Meta, which is now called, okay, owns WhatsApp.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Now, part of the progression of what's happening in the future is like we can see that Facebook, which is it's a social media networking company, has changed itself, rebranded as a metaverse company. Okay, a rethink. Well, according to Mark Zuckerberg, not necessarily a rethink, but basically a progression.
A progression, yeah.
Okay, but not a rethink, because it's just an advanced form of having people socialize, but in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Okay, and more interactively. Okay, so that was a slight digression, but we come back. So
okay, I was just about
yes, but it wasn't important that it wasn't important. So we're now at the point where Facebook, okay, have launched via WhatsApp a digital payment system. Yes, so it's been running for 6 weeks at the moment. It's just within a couple of a select scope of people within the US.
What is it called?
It's called Novi. So you can access, so that it's done through an app called Novi wallet. Okay.
NOVI.
NOVI, yes. But you can access it via WhatsApp. But it's only accessible to certain groups or certain limited scope within the US.
Okay.
It originally was supposed to be US and Guatemala. Okay, but
and it's just happened within the last 6 weeks, literally November.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. So it's like a pilot. Basically, it's a pilot.
Okay.
Okay. And you can basically transmit USDP. Okay, which is Pax USD. Managed by Paxos, the company Paxos. Okay, so Paxos have had their own stable currency and stuff for a while. So this is USDP Paxos. Okay, so you can transmit. So basically, it's like you basically send, you transfer the money in a way that it's similar to an attachment. You just add an attachment, you send to somebody. Okay, there basically no fees for holding the currency. There's no fees for transmission. You don't pay when you send me an attachment. You don't pay. When I send you an attachment, I don't pay. Okay, so this is something which is currently, in pilot. Now you can imagine. Can you imagine? So in China,
the
they
US
have
government worried about this, because I know Facebook was going to have some sort of
Libra Corporation before. Sorry, say that again.
No, Facebook was looking to have some coin at some point. I can't remember the
Yes, Libra. It was a Libra. Yes.
Libra, that's the one. And wasn't that just like, wasn't allowed or something? I don't know, because there was some
basically
fear
Congress
of Mark Zuckerberg becoming way too powerful or something.
Yes, that was one, and also because of the past history of Facebook with regards to violation
Data.
of data, things like that. So which is one of the reasons why he didn't lead that. He had he wasn't the face of that company, and why they registered it, I believe, in Switzerland at the time.
Right.
Do you understand? So they factored that and tried to come from a different angle from that. But then basically the US Senate, indirectly shut it down. They were not happy with it, and they raised so many issues at Senate hearings. So now, and they have raised it again recently. This last week, there was a Senate hearing where a number of senators raised questions, and they invited a number of people, from the crypto world. One of them was Sam Bankman-Fried. Freeman. So Sam is built FTX.
Okay.
Solana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almighty
Sam,
Solana.
Yeah, almighty. So yeah, your favorite coin because it's going through the roof. And you kept it. Yeah, exactly. So Sam Bankman, he was there. There's a video on what he wore, but let's not go in there. He came in like a true geek, crypto geek. With backpack and everything. But yeah, there were a lot of memes on the internet, with regards to that at the moment and co. So they came in, and there was this discussion, and one of the senators who had been involved in the Libra conversation and the Libra hearing, on the committee, she mentioned how they had managed to, quote unquote, should I say dissuade, basically dissuade Libra from taking off, and some of the corporations which were going to be part of that consortium pulled out at that time. That's basically what happened after all the hearings and some of the things that were raised and everything, and possibly the pressures. A core number of the consortiums involved, or that were to be involved in Libra, exited. So that kind of caused it to fizzle. So this is basically, look at it as a reroute, on Facebook, doing a reroute. But in a way, this may actually, be to their benefit. So for example, we now have WhatsApp, which everybody uses. Everybody. It's different from like WeChat, which in China is used for payments also, that even on the street, I'm told that, even hawkers on the street who hawk goods, and people who have their little pop-up shops, all of them, from the young to the old, okay, use. Yeah. But that's internal, more in China. But now we have WhatsApp that everybody uses. So you have now a global tool that now allows a medium of exchange of cash peer-to-peer for everyone. Can you imagine what's going to happen to the likes of money transfer, Western Union, and all out of business?
That's actually.
Basically, yes. and they refuse to get on the bandwagon early. So that is an example of the pressures on certain institutions that handle money and their benefits. Okay, because now we have a technology that allows us, okay, based on just technology and code, without me knowing you, to just do a transaction.
Absolutely.
Without any third party fee. Also, it means that a lot of money which is sent from developed nations to underdeveloped nations to help families, that people send money to their families back home, okay, will now be done literally free of charge. Even currently,
that's where all these institutions were making money from. I mean, the money transfer, the Western Unions, and
even the banks, when you transferred money, even before like the Western Union and the banks, now you don't need them. So again, another effect on.
Well, I think these things, will take more effect in the Western world quickly, as opposed to some developing nations. For example, I could use Nigeria as an example. I could use Angola. I could use Venezuela.
Okay.
Nigeria is actually a tricky one because, I mean, in the last conversation we had, I did mention that during the SARS movement and all of that, when the banks were, again, that's part of what we're talking about, the centralization of, money, funds and all of that. That was stifled, and these kids decided to just raise funds via cryptocurrencies, basically, to just to help themselves, to feed and all of that, because their accounts were blocked out. So but maybe Nigeria is not a good example. Maybe other African nations, probably, and no one should come for me. But
okay, so this is the interesting thing about the whole new dispensation.
Yeah,
it is both about the currency, but also the underlying technology, blockchain. But not just even blockchain, but the evolutions of blockchain. So you have blockchain technology, you have I was going to say you have DAG technology, okay, which is slightly different, but performs similar functionality, okay, but it's faster than blockchain, traditional blockchains. And then you have, on top of that, you have the layer 2s, and a new one, which is, going to increase that speed to more practical levels, okay, which are rollups, such as optimistic rollups and ZK rollups, which we'll talk about. Yes, which we'll talk about in other sessions. Yes. But the idea is this: one of the things which this does is it empowers. So a large portion of the world still do not have bank accounts, but everybody literally has a mobile phone.
True. That's correct. Yeah.
Yes. So indirectly, literally everybody can have their own bank account on their phone. So this then addresses an immediate issue in a lot of these underdeveloped countries. Therefore, the interest and take up at a point in time will go through the roof. And this is why, for example, in countries like Nigeria, it's found that Nigeria, when they did the Google searches and analysis, that Nigeria is one of the top countries, Nigeria is one of the countries that has the highest rate of searches for Bitcoin and blockchain.
Number 2, actually.
Number 2.
Highest is number 2, yeah.
Number 2, thank you.
It's number 2 to the US.
Exactly. That's how positively aggressive Nigerians are with regards to that. But also remember that they're suffering deflation of a currency.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's unemployment affecting people, okay? There's lack of infrastructure in various places. So for example, electricity, but once you've charged your phone, you're good for the day. It's also a country where a lot of people have members of their family, siblings that have traveled abroad to seek, better opportunities. For example, like yourself, myself, various other people. And what's happened, they've worked hard, okay, studied, done various things, and moved abroad, and frequently we transfer money back. So now all the money that we should transfer back, okay, can literally be transferred free of charge. So the currencies and the technologies have literally helped to resolve these issues. So therefore, and these are issues which, these are desires, needs, requirements, which people in the developed world don't necessarily have a need for.
Yeah.
So therefore, the rate of uptake in some of those countries will increase phenomenally based on these issues, which differ from the reasons why people in developed countries will have an uptake. People in developed countries do the uptake because it's been found out that I think now there's an increase in the number of millennials in America who are considering quitting their normal jobs to go into crypto business.
I mean, there's no surprise there.
Exactly. So, but you see, they're doing it to go into that business. Whereas in these other countries, and I've worked in Nigeria. Okay. I used to be head of software development for one of the banks. So I've seen some of these things firsthand. I've consulted in Kenya.
Yeah.
I've been in Kenya several occasions, and in Kenya they have one of the most phenomenal and largest micro loan schemes that you can find anywhere, where they try to get loans into the hands of rural people, one-man small businesses, to grow their businesses. Okay. Now imagine all these small loans now being done on an infrastructure and a technology, which is a fraction, that lends a fraction of the cost to the end person, which is the whole purpose of empowering the end customer.
Yeah.
So their rate of uptake will at a point will explode. We're still early. We're not as early as maybe if we're last year or 2 years ago, because now all the institutions that said, we're not touching Bitcoin, we're not touching cryptos, we're not touching DAG technology, it's all for dodgy people. Visa,
but now,
everybody, it's a race. Everybody
exactly.
wants a part of the pie.
Yeah.
You understand? So this brings us onto the part of the requirement for the mass use, both in developed countries as well as underdeveloped countries.
Undeveloped countries, yeah.
Now, imagine. Now, another thing, a lot of these people that you mentioned, like, okay, these underdeveloped countries, maybe their uptake isn't so much, but they all have WhatsApp.
They do, yeah.
So imagine when
even in the villages, they do.
Even in the villages, because we use it to talk to each other, we use it to send messages.
Yeah, absolutely.
My late mom's friend, her daughter was showing her how to use the video on WhatsApp so that we could talk.
Yeah.
Now imagine WhatsApp, she knows how to use WhatsApp, and I want to just send her money to say thank you, for certain things you've done for me, standing in as like, my mom, for certain things and looking after stuff since she's late, and boom. Yeah. She's got it straight. Yeah. So this is where it's going to be. These are avenues that will onboard the masses.
Got you.
Okay. Now, DeFi. Back to DeFi. Quickly. So DeFi, in order to again understand, so we touched on DeFi, in order to understand decentralized finance a bit more.
Yeah.
We have to understand a little bit more about the basics of DeFi, because I know I've mentioned some crazy interest rates. Okay. We just don't have the time today. Otherwise, I'd actually, show you, on the screen, the actual interest rate on Wonderland as at now.
Right.
But at least the 82,621 spot two, which I've mentioned, is just before we started. It does go up and down. It fluctuates. Some of these rates, do fluctuate. But that is just an incredible, so these, like I said, they're the more experimental, and people have been hacked and rug pulled, on some other experimental things. So it tends to be risky.
Okay.
You know, it's important to put it out there that, especially for protocols, we call them, you know, we refer to them as like protocols. It's important not to put too much, or just put, especially if you're earning that kind of crazy interest. Imagine just putting £500 there and leaving it for a year.
Again, financial advice. I think this is very important to state.
Not financial advice. Yes, not financial advice. But you know, the safe thing would be, oh, if you leave it in there, go and check it once in a while. Once it's more than, let's say, 3 times or double more than what you put in, just take out your initial money. So if somebody hacks it, if something goes wrong, your money is back.
Yeah, yeah.
You understand? And some of these protocols, what happens with them is that they are kind of still a bit complicated for people to understand and go through the pains of what do I do to do this? How do I put this on this? How do I stake this? And all of that. Eventually, what will happen is those things will become simplified. It's just like how the internet was. When people initially used the internet, you probably had to be an elite. If you wanted to do a website before, you'd hire a developer. Now people just have packages like WordPress. You can literally, anybody can use it.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's been an abstraction, what's referred to as an abstraction of the complicated layers. You know, and a simplification for the end user to do. And all the stuff that developers used to do is now done or is automated behind in code. Okay, so basically the whole thing, and this is a similar thing with what's going to happen with DeFi. And DeFi is one of the things that scares many governments. First, it scares the banks, and it scares governments. Okay, another phenomenal thing about this whole wave, and I think I want to mention before we touch on even the basics of DeFi, is that the idea was to empower the everyday person.
Yes, that's it.
To empower the everyday person where they have more chance to make money, own it, and keep it. Make money, or in fact, it should actually be make money, change their lives, possibly change the next generation's lives, and keep it also. One example of this is when a number of things are being launched. Like, for example, if you were a new company doing IPO, you know, on the stock markets and things like that, you know, or if you were going to be a seed round investor, that's even better. If you're going to be a seed round investor in any corporation, you know, if you're going to be an angel investor, you'd have to be accredited before you could invest, which means that you would already have, you'd have been rich.
Gotcha.
Before you be an accredited investor. I think in the States, you either have to show an income of about $1 million a year or 2 million. I think it's $1 million, you know, a certain amount of continual wealth. So therefore, if the company went down, you were still okay. That was the consideration. So that meant that only the rich got to invest in new things, new companies at the ground level of seed investor. Now, all of us literally have the potential to invest in new protocols when they start. Like, for example, you managed to get Luna early. Maybe not as early as some, but you got in. You didn't have to be worth, you know, millions already. So now the playing field, because what used to happen is the rich got richer and the poor stayed poor. And then only the few that broke through to the middle ground, and some of the middle ground broke through to the rich. Okay, so the disparity was much more. And this is why, again, we keep hearing the term that is said a lot of times, you know, by YouTubers, that it's the greatest, you know, season of wealth transfer. People felt before gold and silver would be the greatest transfer, because you can see now that money is being devalued, gold is up. But that's small, almost myopic, compared to the wealth transfer that is currently feasible. If you're able to invest in a new product, a new protocol early in a decentralized world, I mean, some of the products, Binance, Ethereum, they've gone up 1,000x. Some have gone up 3,000, 5,000x, which meant if you, in your small country, had only put in 500 naira, and it has
Imagine
gone
what
up.
it would be now. Yeah.
It's gone up 500,000x, or gone up.
Financial advice, people.
No financial advice, but because again, it's not easy to do. Let's not kid ourselves. People say this, oh, jump into the, no, you have to research each one.
Do your own research.
You have to do your own research. And and the idea is you need to spread your seeds, because some of them will fail. You get scammed on some. Okay. Some are just rubbish and will flop.
Yeah.
Okay. Some are great and you need money. You sell out early because you have to survive.
Yeah.
You know, and another thing is, it's possible. Like now we go into what's maybe a bear market. You know, or there's a global crisis, and stock markets tank, and your cryptos tank.
Mm.
Do you understand? Or seed
And
investors.
that's something we actually need to talk about at some point.
Yeah.
The marriage between the stock markets and crypto market, because there's that issue of when stock tanks, crypto sort of moves, and why that is. We definitely need to touch upon that topic maybe during the next next session. Yeah. Next
session. And so when we look at all those things, okay, we understand more, where why it's so empowering, this new decentralized world. And then DeFi, where we don't have to just take 1% from a bank.
Yeah.
If we're willing to take the risk on the other side in a decentralized world, and potentially earn much more than that, and things like that. So I don't know if we still have time to finish DeFi, or...
I mean, DeFi is quite large, so I think we should probably continue during our next
session. Okay, so in our next session,
we'll talk a large topic.
I
believe the listeners and the viewers probably have learned a fair bit, but there's so much to learn. Honestly, there's so much to learn on decentralized finance. It's humongous.
It is.
Yeah, it's humongous.
Yes. So great. So what we'll do is next time, we said, we'll talk more about well, we've actually touched on DeFi. We've introduced it, and we'll talk a bit more about it. Same way we talked about currencies, and we went back a little bit, and then before moving forward, we'll just go back a little bit, and then move forward, with a bit of DeFi, and then talk about NFTs and some other.
Yes. NFT is super important. There's a lot of conversations around that, and then we will touch on the rest as well, which is rest of the technologies, the ZK rollups, and all of that. And this, as you say, there may be more adoption. Not that there may be more, there will be more adoption for developing nations, especially because they are the ones that have this, challenges with the currency value, the naira. There's the Zambian dollars. Let's not even get there. Let's not even get there, So yes, a lot of these countries I'll say within Africa would really help. And we also need to talk about ADA, because ADA is having some some relationship with some African countries, Ethiopia, I think, and I don't know another country.
Yes.
So ADA, that's Cardano, isn't it? So
yes, that is true. They have
a reason why that's even a thing. Why I can't remember his name now. The guy who used to be part of Ethereum and has started, Cardano. Why he's decided to go with,
Charles Hoskins.
I'm sorry?
Charles Hoskins.
That's his name. Yes. So it's got to have
so I can quickly answer that. So you had three guys.
Vitalik.
Vitalik, Charles Hoskins, and his name has just skipped me now. The founder of Polkadot. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, his name has skipped me now. But anyway, so the three guys, were doing their thing, but eventually each one went their separate ways, and each one is attempting to solve the issue of allowing blockchain technology and usage to reach the mass audience. Okay. So what's happened in the case of ADA and Polkadot is they've taken separate, different approaches than Ethereum to try to solve this issue and also do it in a way where, so Ethereum had already started. So Ethereum is like after Grandpa Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Ethereum is like Uncle Ethereum.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like literally the first of its, it was literally its
It's the first alternative coin, isn't it? And they're called,
well, I wouldn't say, okay, so one of the main reasons for Ethereum is that Bitcoin was not what we refer to as a fully programmable language.
got you.
Did not have a fully programmable language. Okay.
Right.
It wasn't Turing compliant. Is what we refer to. And what we mean by that is that you couldn't get Bitcoin to do, for example, smart contracts. You couldn't do various types of coding, with it, because its language set wasn't robust enough. And when the body around Bitcoin, okay, the governance around Bitcoin were like, okay, we don't want to change Bitcoin. Bitcoin was meant to be secure. It is still the literally most secure. It may be slower, but it's still the most secure.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep that. Okay. So when Vitalik went to them, they were like, oh, no. So he's okay, sorry, okay, you guys don't want to change Bitcoin. Okay, we're trying to do our own new thing, which was how Ethereum was birthed. So Ethereum has a complete language set, which is why all these other institutions have now built industries, and why DeFi, which started from MakerDAO, okay, where they built products because you could program so many things onto it.
Yeah.
Now, Ada and Polkadot have simply attempting to solve the same problem, but with products which are already fully built for the masses. Whereas Ethereum, is being patched, is being fixed along the way. It's like having a Volkswagen that you want to gradually remodel, till it becomes a Rolls.
Yeah.
Okay. And whereas Ada and
Polkadot
have said, we're not going to take that approach. We're going to go design it from scratch to be able to do what it should do for the future.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this is why, they're different, and each of them have different. One is Ada is an entire blockchain of its own. Polkadot is more what you might, in simple terms, as an interconnectivity, allow for an interconnectivity of other chains.
Gotcha. Right.
Okay, so that you can have cross-chain
interaction,
cross-chain interchange and interactions. Yeah. Okay, as opposed to everybody standing separate.
On their own. Yeah.
Yes. So they, each have taken there's three different approaches to solve, to bring this to the world.
Interesting. Oh my God. There's so much to learn. It's
no problem. It's not a day's journey.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So much to learn. Well, I'll say we continue,
another time, yes.
Session. Yeah, because we have a long way to go. There's so much to learn. And I'm sure, when people get to view this, please, viewers, drop in your questions for Gbola. This guy is a knowledge treasure trove, really. Just drop in the questions, We're waiting. We're waiting.
Maybe what we should do is when questions come in, next time we'll answer, we'll have like 5-10 minutes at the start. And we'll answer those questions. Absolutely. Before we go on.
Absolutely.
So they can,
we should do that. We should do that. Listen, well, looking out for you guys, because this is not he's looking out for you guys. So this is interesting. I have learned a lot. I had no idea about this Novi situation, which is on a pilot phase. I didn't know about Wonderland and the 82,000+%. You see my face when you mentioned it. I was like, huh? What?
But there's others. There's Tomb, there's Abracadabra money, there's
Abracadabra. Oh my God, I'm lost.
There's Spell, there's others.
Again, for those of you listening, not financial advice. Do your own research.
Yeah, I've lost. I know what I've lost. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, DYOR, is that a coin? I'm like, do your own research. Not Bing did not tell you anything. Do your own research.
Neither did Bola tell you anything. We're just sharing our own experiences and our own, interest. I believe for a while it is the future. And I believe it both as somebody who, likes it, but also as a technology person. I've always been a technology person. I was a, developer analyst, senior developer, lead, developer lead analyst, and all of that. So even from that perspective, I believe it is the future.
Yeah.
And it's already here now anyway.
It is.
All right.
Yeah. It's the present and the future.
It's the present and the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
There's no way we can even finish this because again, yeah, there's still much more to talk about. And yeah, oh my God, it's mind-blowing. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really, really enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And yeah, listeners, we're waiting for your questions. We're waiting for your comments. Bring it in. We will be answering your questions and comments when we receive. Please bring them in, and we would answer them to the best of our ability. You've got Gbola here, so there's no.
I won't have all the answers, but I would try.
Okay, so yeah, big thanks to you all, and yes, until next time, it's Bim from BlueSitron. Thank you so much, and it's great having you here, Gbola. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Have a lovely
Thank you.
day. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.